Okay, guys, today's debate is, the topic is people should have to pass a test and be licensed in order to become parents. Elaine and Michelle will argue for the statement, and Priscilla and Alina will argue against the statement. And Elaine will introduce.
Should parents need a license to parent? Would a physical barrier preventing a couple on having a child be unethical? I strongly believe that a parenting license should be set in place, as it would allow the future generations to be set in stone and be raised with a good upbringing. To begin with, a large number of parents are simply unprepared for children or have unintended pregnancies. According to the statistics taken by Guttmacher Institute, 45% of all pregnancies in the U.S. in 2011 were unintended. Of those 45%, 53% of the pregnancies were born. With the child being unwanted or mistimed in the first place, the chance of abuse towards the child skyrockets. There are many forms of abuse that can be put upon a child: physical, emotional, verbal abuse, and neglect. In Ontario alone, 31% of males and 21% of females were physically abused in their childhood. Parents who do have unwanted pregnancies may hold resentment towards their child, and their anger is transferred through abuse. Neglect, as well, is the most popular form of abuse, as documented in 2003 by social workers. Many negative effects of these abuses during early childhood, such as the fear of Many negative effects of abuse during early childhood, such as fear of isolation and an inability to trust, and social problems, such as making friends, can transition into lifelong consequences such as depression, low self-esteem, and relationship difficulties. In an extreme case, childhood abuse and neglect can lead to the creation, or has led to the creation, of Jeffrey Dahmer, a serial killer, rapist, necrophiliac, and overall a demented soul. Jeffrey Dahmer was the first son to Joyce and Lionel Dahmer. Joyce Dahmer was known to be a tense, greedy for attention, and was incredibly argumentative with both her husband and her neighbors. After first grade, Joyce was spending an increasing amount of time in bed due to sickness. And Lionel, his father, was also preoccupied with his university studies, and when he was home, his wife, Joyce, preoccupied him begging for attention, pretty much. Joyce attempted suicide from an overdose of Equinol pills, to which she was addicted to. Neither parent devoted much, or any time rather, with their son. His early childhood life had him basically left to his own devices. He could do whatever he wants, and his parents wouldn't care. His early family life, Dahmer explained himself that his early family life was a place of extreme tension. His parents were constantly arguing, his parents were never home, he didn't have anything to do and nowhere to be guided to. He also had an early obsession with dismembering animals, because he collected various bugs, small rodents, and picked up dead animals off the road. From his teacher in the first grade, he was seen as quiet and timid, always in isolation and never had any friends. And due to neglect, he developed social problems. He was always seen as an outcast, even throughout high school. In his first year of high school, he developed alcoholism, and that snowballed to him. His early alcoholism snowballed him into being addicted to where he would be drinking it during school hours, before and after. He abused it, and he said that it was his medicine, so to speak. He also, later on, he combined his sexual fantasies of dominance with his obsession of dissection of his dead animals and dismemberment. Dahmer's fantasies ultimately culminated him to commit a total of 17 murders on men and boys. I think that's it. Thank you.
Wait, how much? It's like how long should I tell you? How many patients, or doesn't matter?
There's usually an outline, like it's usually on the rubric. Is there something on the rubric that says?
I don't know. That's what I actually. There is
Hey, quiet please.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, me and my partner will be presenting our opinion on how people should not have to pass a test and be licensed in order to become parents. Before I present my points, I would like to explain to you how child abuse and neglect is not very clear in terms of explaining why a test is important to have children. So first of all, how you are raised does not define who you will become as a person. For the example of Joyce, it is more about how he chose to live from free will. Most children are given a lot of attention but can still have addictions and choose to live in a certain way. So, in terms of child abuse, although child abuse is an issue in families, these tests do not have much to do with child abuse, since there is no proof that potential parents will indicate whether they will be abusive or not. How can we know that they will be abusive or not when stress levels rise after children? It is extremely hard to indicate how these parents will exactly treat their children, as we know discipline is common in society. It is harder to indicate that these tests will prove the type of discipline that is performed. Many times after the child is born, different issues arise in the family, which increase stress level and cause spousal and or child abuse. Women increase the amount of hormones they have after childbirth and have more of a controlling and protecting behavior towards children. There's a bigger chance of stress and depression once the child is born, which tells us that child abuse cannot be detected through a test. Women release oxytocin, which makes them attached to the baby, which is right after birth. Women have this emotional connection which puts them in this controlling state. Stress is easier to build up after childbirth, since the woman wants control and protection over her child at all times. Often we see animals. Female animals are very aggressive during pregnancy and after childbirth, since they want their child to be safe. They are very quick to act. As we see, women develop a huge responsibility over themselves. Same with men. They have a bigger financial need now. During this stage, the type of coping mechanism these parents use is important. Some are good with new responsibilities, some are not, and may choose to act aggressive due to the stress level. And how can a test measure all of this way before the child has even entered the lives of the couple? So now, beginning with my own opinion, the family life cycle is a theory in which it is essential to have a family, since it develops an individual. The stages in the cycle are stages we all experience at one point of our lives. The stages in the family life cycle are independence, coupling or marriage, parenting, launching adult children, and retirement. All these stages contribute to who you develop as a person. I'm sure that everyone has parents and guardians in their house who they live with. Now imagine you never being born. Wouldn't this change your parent or guardian as a person, and wouldn't their life be different without you. This is what family life cycle talks about. We all need to be mature. We all need to mature and age accordingly, face different challenges as human beings. Couples mature as individuals. Once they have children, they learn from them and teach them, which develops parenthood. These tests are more to hinder potential families in society, since the people who may not qualify will never experience parenthood and the love of family. The measurable effect of this situation is incomplete families and heartbreak for those who are not allowed to have children. Since they did not pass a test, according to social exchange theory, people develop relationships to gain something out of it. Men look for fertile women for marriage so they can continue their family and their family name. In this situation, both will either qualify or not, leading to disappointment within themselves. Since the purpose of marriage is to grow as a couple and reproduce, the people who fail this test will also choose the option of abortion. Not only is this morally wrong for many cultures, but this is emotionally damaging for the woman. Abortion is one of the leading causes of depression among women. Due to a recent study published in Canadian Journal of Psychiatry, over 50% of the women who have been diagnosed with any type of disorder due to their abortion have increased for suicidal thoughts. And almost 3 times the normal amount have increased risk for alcohol abuse and substance use disorder. Based on these recent statistics, it is clear that women are heavily attached to the sensitive issue. Regardless of the reason for the abortion, they have faced many mental issues due to it. If this license is allowed, these numbers will only go higher, affecting more women and making incomplete families a further issue. Today, it will be surprising to you that couples spend over $10,000 for in vitro fertilization. Children are essential to form a family. Although many women face difficulties with abortion and the process of not being able to have a child, it also affects family development. Angela Bergman, a woman who went transparent with media in 2014, stated in her article, "I felt like I had zero control over my situation. As a woman, this is what we were biologically supposed to do, able to do, and I couldn't. It made me feel like less of a woman. This is clearly disabling people and taking away citizen rights." A human body can bear only up to 45 Dell units of pain. Yet at time of giving birth, a mother feels up to 57 Dell units of pain. This is similar to 20 bones getting fractured at the same time. Women have been created biologically to bear this huge amount of pain. Physically, they are created to experience this. Women are given the strength and pain to endure children who hugely contribute to a family. Knowing that children is not easy, people still want to have children since they want their family to grow. Angela Bergman has tried for several years due to this test. There will be thousands of heartbroken women like Angela. Qualifications of a test should not decide whether women should have children or not, since this is a huge moment for her and the family. It is a personal experience that should not be taken away. When we consider the topic of having a license for children, first thing that comes to mind is this takes away from a couple's privacy. Now, individuals would need to be transparent with people from society and get approved to do something they were created to do. They will need to go through a test and get licensed. This simply invades privacy. The more concerning question here is who will make these tests? God has given us a choice and the ability to reproduce. Humans should not set requirements for others. As Angela stated, that as a woman, they were supposed to reproduce. This is how a woman is designed. The license will represent God in society, which is the worst thing that can happen to mankind as a whole. We often look at society as a controlling and hard to fit into. How outcasted will those come out to be who will not make the test? Another issue with this test is the materialistic testing will favor higher financial stability for couples, although it may not seem like a big effect, but this would eliminate the choice of having a family for some middle-class families and all lower-class families. Stopping any kind of childbirth is wrong, even for the poor. Now we see many celebrities making it big who have had a successful career learning from their past experience. Many celebrities we know today were born in extreme poverty. And Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio are just a few on the list. Everyone, regardless of status in society, has potential. Another example is, we know Paris Hilton comes from a rich family, but still isn't considered ideal for someone to look up to. This determines that being rich doesn't mean that you will raise your children well. These tests will not only harm potential families, but put society in a complete control of what is acceptable and what is not. Not only will we then be judged on looks and wealth, but also be judged on how we would like to continue our name and our generation. Thank you.
Isn't it spring, summer?
Okay, and a rebuttal?
Okay. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. So the opposing side said how you raise isn't tied to how your child's children will be raised. However, in the example of Jeffrey Dahmer, was not attached to her child whatsoever. She was childlike, attention craving, and was not fit to be a mother. How you act beforehand and how your actions are beforehand you will bring that into the family you are raising, of course, because it's your nature. So, of course, children are like their parents. We all get traits from our parents. There's no doubt that we don't. So bringing that in will affect the child whether or not. Sure, it might create them to be a better person. There's no doubt about that. It's all possibilities. However, it's not a guarantee that your child won't be kind of messed up. There's always the possibility of a child getting depression. There's always a possibility of a child feeling horrible because of the physical abuse, mental abuse, whatever, emotional abuse that pertains to that. Also, adults that support a child's education, teachers, physical, pediatricians, and emotional health, child psychologists, and babysitters, daycare professionals, all need to be trained and licensed before caring for a child. Those people are all surrounded around your child, and they all need a license to help your child and help them to grow up. So parents are the most present in the child's life compared to others. So if the home life is toxic, it won't reflect well. Also, parents should at least know the basic knowledge before having a child. If you're a teenage mother and you are having a child and you're still in high school, how do you expect someone to take care of that? You need to know the basics of how much you're gonna have in income to give your child. Like, you need materials and stuff, formula, all that. So if you don't have the basic knowledge of how to take care of another human person when you can't even take care of yourself, then that's a problem. Maybe you should mature enough to have a child. Maybe if the test comes in, it will show the maturity levels. At least it'll give us a base stat of like, okay, they're good enough to have a child. They're stable enough. The child won't be having a poor home life. So there's that. Also, we have to obtain a license before marriage. Guns, fishing, driving, These things are so small in everyone's lives. We take it for granted, but it's tiny. It's completely tiny. So tell me why we need a license for that. It's not even that important. And yet we don't have a license for parents that are going to be the most present in the child's life. So I don't understand why we have to get that before that. Those things aren't even as important as raising a child. They might know nothing about how to raise the next generation. It is essential to have a family, independence, coupling, childbirth. Parents would change from having children in parenthood. There's no guarantee of how you deal with stress in a family. For a mother, you will have stress going into pregnancy. You will have stress before the pregnancy. Once you find out that you're pregnant, of course you're going to have stress, unless you're awaiting that. But it's how you deal with the stress that is going to bring it into your present life. How you deal with having that child. Because some people do drink, some people do end up smoking, some people do end up having bad decisions beforehand. So why not have a test to see if they're stable enough to get to reproduce a child and have all of that. So what I'm saying is the basic license will have at least a basis for everything. It'll have a basis for having the right mentality to be okay to raise a child. Also, the family life cycle. There's no guarantee that it'll be a stable family. There's no guarantee that the father's not going to be there. Who knows? The father might raise the child and the mother might not be there. The mother is the one that's most important. So what if it's an incomplete family? What's going to happen with that? So if you had that test, if you had that license, if you could get the resources you need to properly raise a human, then go ahead. And I think the license would prevent horrible families and children turning out negatively in a way. Yeah, that's it.
I'll make my 8 calories. Oh wait, you don't have one.
Okay, we still think get a shot.
And that's why they I will never take
Is that what I said to you? That's all what I said?
That you know I trained and never gonna shoot.
Yeah, I know, man. I
He's talking so slow.
I stopped.
Well, he said there's gonna be.
Lucy, do you want to drop in the chat today?
Okay? Listen up, please.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start by refuting some of my opponent's main points. First of all, teachers need a license because they are strangers. They may not know how to take care of children. And guns are used to kill people. They are used to do major attacks such as ISIS. How can we compare children to them? And family life cycle is a stage of development, not a family tree. So in my argument, I will discuss 3 main points as to why licensing potential parents should not exist. First, I will discuss how this regulation would go against our rights and freedoms. Second, I'm going to explain how this licensing will affect the happiness of potential parents and replace it with prejudice. Finally, I'm going to explain how this license will negatively affect Canada's population. To start, people should not have to pass a test in order to become parents because it goes against their rights and freedoms. In the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 2, Part A, it states that we have a freedom of conscience and religion. And Part B states that we have a freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. This license goes against the scriptural command theory, which refers to those who believe God's command is found in sacred scriptures. Since Canada is multicultural, this theory applies to any religion that supports pronatalism, which is a belief that promotes human reproduction. An example of these religions is Christianity. In the King James Version Bible, it states in Genesis 1, verse 28, "And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply." Also, Psalms 127, verse 3, refers to the importance of children. It states, "Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb, a reward." This shows that children are necessary to replenish the earth, and they are considered a gift from God, necessary to hold up the faith for generations to come. Another popular religion that would be affected with this law is Judaism. In Deuteronomy 11, verse 18, it states, "And you shall teach them the words of God to your children in order that you may lengthen your days and your children's days upon the earth." This shows that in Judaism, it is important to imprint the knowledge, belief, and word of God onto the next generation, because it furthers and continues the existence of the religion. These are big religions, and by having this law, they will begin to dwindle. But what then will happen?